Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Together in Spirits podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tanae Jones.
And I am Brian Bikey, another one of your hosts.
Oh, you know what? I actually need to start saying this. This is a podcast. One, it's not a bourbon podcast. Let's start there. But two, this is a podcast powered by Seelbach. So I am very excited for this first episode to be all things Seelbach today. To give you all a little bit about Together in Spirits podcast, this is where unsuspecting worlds converge to celebrate all that makes us different, yet the same. This is a space where everyone is exactly who they are, and yet just happen to find themselves in this space of distilled spirits that we love so much. So, with this podcast, our intention is to highlight all the amazing people and the amazing stories that wind up taking them from something completely unrelated and unsuspecting and leading them into this world of spirits. And we hope you guys love the journey. So, our first guest is going to be the one and only Mr. Blake Reber himself, of course, the man powering all the things. And so I'm so excited to just get into it. Yeah.
I feel like I didn't work on my radio voice, and I'm behind the eight ball on sounding so good. But yes.
I mean, but you're a vet on the microphone at this point, Blake. Like at least once a month, you're on a podcast.
Put a camera and a microphone, and like one of those things you just spin up, and I just start talking about bourbon for an hour. So
now, that said, I will be very interested to find out. Now, anyone who is familiar with Blake, they've probably seen him before, the Bourbon Pursuit podcast for the Bourbon Community Roundtable. So if they have heard him before, I'm going to be very curious if the result of this is better sounding, and if Kenny doesn't send us a message complaining about, hey, you're just doing this for us.
It may just be that my voice echoes this whole time. It hasn't been my microphones that were the problem. It just is. No, never claimed a lot of things.
The microphones have changed.
Yeah, the microphones have changed. If it still sounds bad,
remains the same.
It's just me. It's just me.
How I set this podcast studio up, how does it still sound like he's on a Bluetooth headset?
You know, it's impressive to be able to do the Bourbon Pursuit Roundtable we're at almost 10 years now.
Whew.
And I still haven't figured out how to get my mic set up. You know, I don't know.
I think we've just learned that all things tech is just not in your wheelhouse
my
of interest
wheelhouse
at all. Because we've learned when you're interested in something, you figure it out.
Probably going to be something that pops up that we talk about. But yes, I call it hyper focus. You know, there's some things that I just really care about, and anything, unfortunately, that falls in that peripheral, not a big deal. We're
right,
good.
exactly. You have somebody else that takes care of that. That's one thing I've definitely learned about you. It's like, if it's not in your general wheelhouse of like interests, you'll just find somebody else who's interested in it already. And like, you do that because that's what you do.
Yeah, leveraging up what you're good at. And if you're not good at something, it's going to be really hard to force it to go be good at it, you know? But
he just gave us a basic outline to this whole podcast.
I was going to say, that
like 4
is
statements.
Genius.
That's, it took me to get into my 30s to realize, like, you know, I've kind of been this way for a long time. I don't think it's going to change now. Like, I was talking to Brian the other night and threw my car keys in the trash at a gas station as an almost 40.
I forgot about that.
And I'm like,
and you were able to get them out?
Oh, yeah. You know, I had to go. Thankfully, I put them in a plastic bag that I was throwing trash away in and threw away the plastic bag.
There was a barrier.
But, you know.
But still, it's going into a gas station trash can nonetheless. So.
Those things don't bother me as much as they used to.
Well, after having 4 children, I feel like you kind of get unfazed by a lot of things, germs being one of them.
Be able to roll some things at times. And no. Long intro. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this. But
see, this is the joy of this podcast. It is meant to flow.
With the podcast being hosted by Blake himself, the intro can be as long as he'd like it to be.
Perks of being the boss. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, so let's get into our first segment, which is Where Have You Been? And so this segment is essentially where we get into all the things prior to you even touching spirits as a space at all. And so, because my story is probably the least random of our group, I think. Brian's story, because we're going to get into your Where Have You Been too, is like pretty random when it just in the grand scope of things, but like yours is especially random in the grand scope of things. Because from finding
is.
You know what? The more people I meet, actually maybe not so much. But okay, so let's get into that. So the beginnings of Blake Reber.
So I always tell people, you know, I have the classic story of 10 years in public accounting will make anybody want to drink. And so, no, I mean, I did not come into bourbon No family background. I grew up in a house that didn't drink, went to schools where it was very frowned upon, and was in the public accounting world. And, really around like 2011, 2012, started getting into bourbon. I think it was the early-ish days of Instagram. A lot of it was happening on Facebook, and really just got locked in and plugged into the online communities of bourbon.
How did you get introduced to bourbon? Just as like a...
That's a good question.
Because it was like a buddy was like, hey, try it, or like...
No, I didn't even really have that many friends around at first that were into bourbon. I think I just saw it somewhere, and then it's like, oh, that looks cool. And then you start researching, and, Reddit's still big, but I was in the R bourbon and R whiskey, and it's like, oh, it's cool. You dive down, you get to learn more about this stuff, and it was just interesting. Obviously it's like, well, it tastes good and it's cool. But then you start getting into the backstories, the production methods, who's making what. Mm-hmm. And it was just one of those things, like it stuck. And next thing I know, I'm like, okay, I'll just like once a month try a new bottle. And then it's like, there's a lot of bottles to get through. Maybe I need to speed up this timeline. And, then I think one day it's like, my wife's like, why are there 40 bottles of bourbon in the pantry? I'm like,
in the pantry is crazy.
Called a collection. And people on the internet said that's what you're supposed to do. You got to try them all. But no, I was still doing the accounting stuff, just getting interested in bourbon, and decided to start the Bourboner blog back late 2012, 2013. And at that time, it was like, really, do we need another bourbon blog? But it was good timing. That's, I think, the most common theme in a lot of my stories is, at the time, it didn't seem like good timing. Looking back, it was great timing. But started in Bourboner, and it was great because I had to connect with people online. There weren't a lot of local groups. There weren't a ton of people meeting up to have bourbon tastings and stuff at first.
I imagine not nearly as many whiskey clubs.
Not nearly as many whiskey clubs. And if they were probably in Kentucky,
right,
or Tennessee, some of those other major bourbon whiskey drinking states. So it made me have to connect online with people, which was fun. And turns out there was a lot of people doing the same thing at the same time. And whenever Bourboner was going, it was like, well, what am I trying to figure out? It's like, well, mash bills. So I'd start doing these charts of, Buffalo Trace mash bill breakdown. I can't remember those things. Well, those got popular, and it's like, well, I'm chasing Pappy. I'm trying to find Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, all these different things. I'm like, I could just do a map in each state that gets Pappy. It's one of the best Microsoft Paint jobs I think I've ever done. Download a blank map, just start filling in as each state. And I think that's where it all started, was just like, hey, what am I going after? What am I chasing? What are the questions I'm trying to answer? As I figure them out,
share it with other people.
Post about it. And, next thing you know, it was still a fun side thing, but getting more and more traction online. And, and then Poor Man's Pappy, blending around with that. That was a fun one. But all this was going on as...
What was in the Poor Man's Pappy blend?
Weller 12 and Weller Antique. So then it kind of blends down to around 107, and which is technically, it was originally like the Weller Centennial blend.
Is it like equal parts?
I think it's I should know this. I think it's 60-40 antique to 12.
Okay.
Is what gets you around 107.
Okay.
Around 100 maybe.
That sounds about right. I'm curious though. I want to back up one more step, because you were talking about 10 years personal accounting would drive anyone to drink,
right? And then
you start talking about this thing that's now become kind of an obsession, a hobby, a collection. Excuse me, for the wives, right?
Yeah, for the wives.
But is this the first thing you've done this for, or like historically in your background? Like, were there other things that your collectibles you're into, or are there other things that this is this a personality trait of yours?
Yeah, I hate to say it. My brother, or like some of my friends I've grown up with, will just be like, yeah, there's a laundry list of and I had a good run with importing some egg incubators from China at one point.
Egg incubators?
Had a e-commerce site for hunting dog apparel. And there's been.
That's so right.
I need to go down more of this list. Hold on. Did you ever have chickens?
No, never had chickens.
Okay.
Never had there's also, I had a great idea called Icy Pants. It was pants that you could put ice packs in so you didn't have to do an ice bath. Turns out ice baths got really big quite a few years later. It was just a little too far ahead of the curve there. And, but no, it just.
Icy pants.
That was, there's a lot of those things that I like to tinker around with. And that was just fun to me. Like, it wasn't like, hey, this is going to be the next $1 million idea. It was like, oh, this is cool. Like, and, I was really into running for a while and did some triathlon stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I actually remember the triathlon stories.
Different hobbies and just things I've picked up. And, I tend to just obsess over something, and sometimes it fades away, sometimes it doesn't. And
well, what's interesting though about several things that you mentioned, they didn't seem like they were straight, hobbies. A lot of these sound like entrepreneurial, some of those are cell driven. So have you always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and or when would you say that started to introduce itself to you? Yeah,
no, I think that was something my dad definitely always pushed in us, was the entrepreneurial spirit, whether it was
your dad an entrepreneur too? Or?
No, he was in he always had that spirit, but he was in the corporate side of a real estate company.
Okay.
But yeah, he loved that stuff too, and he got to do that in his job as well.
But it wasn't like real estate,
a true business owner, but he just had that same spirit. So with us as kids, it was, hey, if you want new shoes, like, go sell candy bars, go, mow lawns, go do whatever, and would definitely just push us to do all those things. And it is funny with kids now where it's like, hey, is that just kind of is that nurture or nature? And, I think it's a balance of both.
It's definitely both.
And yeah, no, that was always something for sure. Like growing up as kids, it was always, you can, different ways to make money. There's, I think that's a very freeing thing as you become an adult, like, to find out how to make money. And it's not just always a 9-to-5, or it's not, there's just different ways. So I think that just continued on, even I remember in college, like, we'd buy books off of Amazon and then sell them back to the library and like have this arbitrage for textbooks going. And there's always just very random things.
When was that?
But like 2007-ish. Yeah. So
what is 2007-ish Blake do with that money that you do on spinning books?
Just, try to survive.
Ramen.
Yeah, that was called, buy some new running shoes.
This was during your triathlon days?
Yeah, there's a lot of running and exercising. Got a cool Garmin watch that, looking back, looked like you put like a mini iPad on your wrist. But
they really downsized those things.
They did.
Well,
the technology has improved there, but no, I think that's just, it's that stuff has always been fun to me. It's not, they weren't like some crazy business making ventures, like wasn't starting the next Google or anything, but that was fun. That was what I enjoyed doing. That was kind of the hobbies. And it was like, cool, if I can have a hobby that I can also make into a business, it's like the best of both worlds. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
And kind of feel like it's where we are today. It's like what we get to do with Seelbach is extremely fun. Certainly everything has its frustrations, but it's like, we get to do this and make money off of it. Like it's amazing. But
it is amazing. Do your kids have the entrepreneurial bug yet? Do they show signs of
a little bit for sure? Our
I can imagine Mary Kate has no desire to work for anybody but herself. That probably, much is clear.
Probably by force she won't be able to. But
by force.
No, they do. Like we've had to have the conversation with our twins who are 7, who it's like, you can't set up a lemonade stand 4 days a week because people are stopping by thinking you're raising money, and then you're like, now we're just buying Legos. And,
they are raising money.
Yeah.
They're making
went
an
to like
earning.
a 4th of July thing, and they're handing out wristbands, and then like one of them's like going and trying to sell the wristbands after they're all out for $1. And I'm like, honestly, not a bad move.
Right.
Like,
no, it's smart.
Respect the hustle, but let's not do that. Like, like, well, do you want to buy all 10 for $10 then? I'm like, no.
Oh my God. Smart.
So they definitely have some of it. And, all my kids are still young. So it is fun to see how some of that, just back to that nurture versus nature. Like some of it's just, you like it or you don't.
Wade, not so much.
He does. He comes and goes. Anytime there's a new Xbox game, he definitely gets the bug. But,
Got it. Okay. So it's situational.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, but
fair. Love that. Okay. So then let's get to you then, Brian, in terms of where you've been, because it's also very red. I mean, I don't know, maybe the journey from, no, because you lived a lot of lives, so I've learned over the past couple of days.
Yeah.
So let's actually get into all
have
of
the
your
same dive deep in whatever industry it's in.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, I've been into a handful of hobbies over time. I mean, I had a stint where I was really big into disc golf. I had a shorter stint where I was really into flashlights. Like tactical flashlights.
What is that? Okay.
Yeah, they're just, I mean,
A lot of
nice,
tag going on.
flashlight, just a nice surefire. Well, we were leading into another geocaching. Became like a big. You ever done geocaching?
What did you know?
Yeah, and this is a thing. Also driven by Garmin. Thanks. This is not sponsored by Garmin, but so geocaching is like worldwide treasure hunting. People will. There's like a site for it. There's a couple of variants, but people would go and they'd hide a box. They always have to have a log sheet like for you to sign. And then sometimes, depending on the size, they'd have trinkets in there. And people can like swap something out or whatever. But they would put the coordinates on a website where you'd like download it onto your GPS. And people would go out and find it.
That is,
and it's, I mean, dude, it's all over the place. And sometimes it would be stuff to lead you to
treasure hunting.
monuments.
That's not exactly a treasure.
Exactly.
It's
kind of, I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, what are these folk doing?
It's the
70 feet off of this trail, digging around in the base of a tree.
Right. That is.
What are they doing lifting up a lamp pole in a Walmart parking lot on 9th? It's all over the place. But that was kind of fun. It's how I proposed to my wife, actually.
Oh. Even better.
Okay,
yeah, she'll probably hate this story.
Hopefully Kristen was also into geocaching.
Right. I mean, I think she more just tagged along. But no, I got the idea, and I had a camo covered ring box, and I hid it in this park. Terrible idea. Don't recommend it. Nothing happened, but don't recommend it.
That was probably you could also put like an Apple tag in there just to make sure you didn't lost it.
Definitely do that. Would have been smarter. And I had her go find it. The geocache name was like the date of the proposal date or whatever is what I gave. And she found it, and it was raining. It was up in Cincinnati, and I asked her to marry me. And so she probably will regret that I'm saying this publicly. But yeah, that's how I proposed to her. Because again, I mean, like if I get into a hobby, I'm kind of like into that sort of thing. The first thing that kind of took me out, I mean, job-wise, my first job was at Six Flags here in town, or Kentucky Kingdom. I'm selling Dippin' Dots. This is nothing crazy.
Love
and
Dippin'
then
Dots.
I started working at a civil engineering company. I was doing soil analysis. So I'd test concrete, I'd test sand and silt and all this kind of stuff. I mean,
what were y'all testing it for? Like, what were y'all trying to figure out?
I mean, so
geocaching.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the engineering company will use that information, whether if they're going out for a construction site, they want to know what the makeup of the land is going to be in certain types of areas. If it's super clayey, if it's super silty, just to know the makeup before they build, what strength they're going to have to do, or concrete. It's just a quality control type thing of knowing that they've paid for a certain spec of concrete. Is it going to meet that? Is it going to break at the strength that it's supposed to go more? It's pretty nerdy, And the engineers, shout out to the engineers. They'll probably be like, "Oh, my man is spitting right now." But yeah, I mean, working back in the lab, it's like I knew what to do. I knew how to do the tests. I'm like, I just gave room to be into things. And if you've ever been around a bunch of engineers, they're not really into things, right? They come in, everything's pretty
stuff,
and it's pretty, you walk in, you get your coffee in the break room, you go back, you have your lunch packed, you eat your packed lunch, you go home, and I don't know, probably watch Seinfeld or something. I don't know.
Engineers and accountants have very similar personalities.
There's like a regiment to it kind of thing. And it gave room for other things. So, that's when I had a friend in Cincinnati, that's where I was working at the time, who kind of was slowly teaching me about specialty coffee, or like that coffee could be something more. I wasn't a super big coffee drinker at the time, but working in the engineering company made me one. It's kind of, I need something to get going. And then I was also into board games. So just playing board games.
Just general board games, or do you have like faves?
Oh, there are a couple of faves I developed.
Okay,
so,
what were the favorites?
We're not talking Monopoly, right?
So everyone can turn the podcast off. Don't listen anymore. There is a card. It's a nerdy card game. It's played as cards, but it's basically like a miniatures battle game, but in card form. Super nerdy. Again, please turn the podcast off. It was called Summoner Wars.
Okay.
And you heard me talk about this a little bit last night, I think. And I had a couple of guys, we really love playing this game, so made a podcast about it. And I think that's a through line you'll probably hear in a lot of things I talk about. So started this podcast, the brand who put out this game is called Plaid Hat Games. They had a podcast, so we're constantly like kind of talking back and forth to the folks who work there. And one of the things they had mentioned on their podcast was the two guys who were hosting it, they're game designers, but it's a small company. And so they're packing all their orders. They're talking about stuff in the warehouse and trying to get things ordered or whatever. And so I messaged them one day and I was like, look, you need somebody who can just do the work for you so you guys can go back to doing what you're good at, which is building the games, right? And they hired me. So I started working for them.
This is like 2012-ish?
This was right after our daughter was born, which was in 2013. So it's like 2014.
It's very early in the podcast scene.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is, it was super interesting. And that's why I find interesting about yours too with the blog side. We can dive into that more if there's time too. But yeah, we did that. I joined the team there, drove us to Northern Ohio for a bit, and then back to down to Texas for a little bit of time before eventually leaving working there after just a handful over a year. Started working in coffee back in Louisville. So there's a roastery here in town, and they're like, we need somebody who can do the kind of things that you do. Did that. I think there was always something about me that kind of on the hobby side, I was always worried that if I worked in the thing that I really liked without having something else to kind of keep my mind busy, I don't know if this goes back to the engineering days, like always a little something else to tinker with, not necessarily as a backup plan, more so just something else to keep your mind busy while you're doing the other things.
Right. Is it like a way to kind of still keep you interested in it? Because when you like something, then you make it your bread and butter. You kind of start to
yes and
resent
no
it a little bit.
Because I love this industry too, but I think it's just more so of when you work with it a different way. Then there's other ways that you want to just engage in something else.
Well, I think there's always carryover too. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it from going engineering to gaming to coffee to spirits. Like there are carryover lessons. There are all kinds of different things. That's like you almost have to have something like that, because if you're just solely in one thing, you're going to miss a lot. And can't tell you like how many things I've taken from other things and applied it to bourbon and whiskey and vice versa. It's like, oh, that works over there. Nobody's doing it on this side. And I think that's probably you see that same progression along the way, which is it's fun and it's exciting for sure.
Yeah, I think it was interesting and that was kind of my first. It's interesting. It's a little different story than yours, Blake. It was my first time switching from corporate into the small business sector. And it's been interesting being a part of multiple businesses in a small business way and just seeing some of the similar things they struggle with depending on size, some of the things that are a pro being a size. But I think the one thing that's a through line to it that's a little bit different than like Blake's more entrepreneurial spirit is I still have always kind of worked for somebody.
Yeah.
Same. It's hard for me to, and I think it's just because I have a trust thing. Like I like trusting people. That can be a bad thing, and it can be a good thing. I think sometimes it's hard to trust folks, but like when it comes to work, I feel like when I don't change jobs all that often, but when I do, it's because I believe in what's moving forward, and I think it's easier to do when it's been a part of a small team. Yeah. And I don't, we've had some conversations about this even recently. It's like I know that there are opportunities to be able to move forward or to think about, doing things for yourself or how to whatever. I don't know, but there are parts of working for a team I like, and I think that's just been an interesting through line given over 10 years of working in kind of small businesses like this.
Yeah, you know what? That's every time we have a conversation, I'm like noticing all these different ways in which we're so similar. Because I feel the exact same way. Like I worked corporate-ish in high school because I was like in retail. just because I wanted to be able to get discounts on clothes. So I worked at like Hollister because I wanted the Abercrombie
Never
discount.
actually walked out with a paycheck. Just, give it to me in clothes.
Handed about half my paycheck to them every 2 weeks. But it was so worth it at the time. I was, 16? I didn't care. But then I very quickly hated it. Corporate life was not for me at all. And I could just, there's an energy about corporate. And just the way it trickles down to even a freaking store associate. It was just not the vibe. So I didn't even last a year in that. Then I moved on to lifeguarding, but I chose the small business route for that because I could have done like the easy thing and just went the route of like being a lifeguard for somebody's apartment complex or something like that where you barely have to do any work. I chose a water park where you have to do all the work.
That sounds like a blast,
and there's children all summer long, groups of them in droves. And I
they just keep coming out.
They just keep coming.
That bus never stops.
Every day, at least 5 days a week. And so I don't know why I didn't think about it, but it was like the funnest, probably one of the funnest jobs I had. I did that all the way until like college, until I got into catering, which was like tiny business. Literally one owner, probably one of the best things that ever happened actually, but just by accident while I was still lifeguarding, my mom just introduced me to a woman who had her shop literally a stone's throw away from where I was living in Alexandria. I could walk there in less than like 5 minutes, and my mom was just in there having a conversation with her, buying food. And then she just looks at me while I'm like on my phone, being a typical, I think 20-year-old maybe at the time. And just asked me what was I doing for the summer for work. And I was like, lifeguarding. That's about it. She asked, do you want to work for me? And I was like looking around her shop, like, what am I about to do in here? Like, there's a kitchen, there's a tiny little corner desk with a computer there. Like, what am I about to do in a catering space? And she was just like, I need someone to do admin. So I was like, okay, fine. I was getting paid cash. It was every week instead of every 2 weeks. I didn't have to stop lifeguarding. And so I went ahead and took it, but I had absolutely no clue at the time the way that it was like training me for how my entire career going forward. Like everything that I do, there's always some sort of pull from what I learned being in catering for 10 years, particularly working for her. The business is what's called Charlene's Kitchen. And I mean, she'd been doing it for over 50 years before she passed, working for herself. She had, and kind of that same mentality, she had she kept her side job at Williams-Sonoma that she had been working for Williams-Sonoma for like well over probably 20 years. Never released that job. Like would only go in there like maybe once a month to work just to keep like the discount and keep access to all the stores.
Some of those appliances are expensive,
Yeah. And we would get access to like the store models of stuff. So like I have a butcher's block that was like $2,000 originally. I paid $75 for it. And I still have it.
You still get that discount. I could
Oh my God. It was like
love
the
a good
best
kitchen gadget.
I love a good kitchen gadget. It's terrible how much stuff I have. But back to your point in terms of like being really more comfortable and more trusting working in a small business atmosphere, that definitely has been a consistent theme throughout just my working life. Also, like I enjoy working as a part of a team. I like leaning into what I'm good at. And I'm like working with Blake in particular kind of helped me put words to what it was because I didn't even think about it that deep at first. So just like I like being a part of a team and I like doing what I do. I like when someone does what they do. And we manage to complement each other. That is the easiest way to work in life. I've also tried the other side of just trying to do every single thing. And it drives me fucking crazy. So I love the team aspect, but I like the small team aspect where everyone's not a number, they're an actual person. And that has been like the blessing of what just the spaces I've been able to find myself in from like a work perspective, especially with Seelbach. Like small businesses are where it's at personally, but there are people who love corporate. So yeah, I guess we need all of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think although you did have a small stint at a bank,
I was going to say, I tried the corporate thing. It was like part corporate, part government,
I think that was the
institution. It was a lot.
Easiest poach of an employee ever.
100%. So when I say I was waiting for an offer letter.
at this bank anymore, right? Like,
wait, so did you use this kind of language with everybody that you got to work for the team? You said the same kind of thing to me. You just kind of massaged it into happening.
You don't want to be here, right?
Yeah,
you're looking for something else.
I'm hearing frustrations.
That's a talent.
I think
this guy's sitting on the side of an ice cream truck with sunglasses on and a cigarette going, hey, lady, I don't think you want to be here anymore.
You want to be
here. Like, spirits industry's fun. Like,
speaking of here, you were talking. You look like you need something else in your glass.
Yes.
Take a little break real quick. This is our yokai pick, so I'll hold up.
Shout out to Kojin.
Yeah, so we're anyone who can't see it on video, it's fine. But this is a new brand, yokai. We got this 9-year hazmat whiskey, probably moving through pro. I would imagine, if not, their fan base as well. So go ahead and pour some of that
delicious.
up and taste through some of that.
Oh, yes. But yeah, that bank stint was, oh my God, the longest 6 months of my life. I don't know how I survived. And I was like going from there literally 8 to 4. They wouldn't let me leave till 4:30. Then I'm in rush hour getting downtown to pack boxes for Seelbach. And I was like, this is too much. They wouldn't let me leave at 4.
Those days are over. Yeah.
I was like, this, like the rules with the scheduling and the things. I was like, this will never work for me ever. Like,
I'm kind of. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it is funny. We are recording this as we're like on the week of the 7th anniversary of Seelbach. So
True.
We're talking about the good old days, and it is funny. Like, we connected through Indeed. You were doing cocktail stuff.
Mm-hmm. I was still
obviously
bartending.
The catering, and it is just funny how things work out. And Dee made the joke. She's like, yeah. Blake came to DC once, and then I didn't see him again for years. Man, this guy must really trust me to be in this little, we're in 2 storage units to start. But it is funny. Like, I feel like we're at a good point now where it's like we have a decent sized team. People who are good at what they're good at can do those things. But early on, like, that's not the thing. Like, everybody's doing everything. And, we had our twins. We had 4 kids, 4 and under. I'd split off from a CPA firm and was doing my own accounting firm. And so then, it was like Bourboner was the side hobby, and then add Seelbach into the list of side hobbies. And then it's like, so good. Okay, this is not anywhere, like, this is in DC. How are we going to make this work? And then, Dee, I think the first probably 5 people we brought on to help pack were all related to you in some aspect.
100%.
And, it is just funny to think of like how that
first person I hired was my sister.
progresses. Yeah. And then, next thing you know, it just keeps growing and growing. And here we are.
It's like you don't even think about it while
4
it's
cameras
happening.
On us and 7 mics.
Sweatshirts made say Seelbach is a cult.
Yeah.
You said what?
We said when you get sweatshirts made say Seelbach is a cult. It's like you have to be.
You got to buy in, you're invested. Once you're in, you're in.
Oh my gosh.
Which,
I think that just speaks to like, I think, Blake, what you've done a good job of, and I think it's really just because it's naturally kind of the person that you are. You build a great culture, though, which has seemed like effortless in terms of execution. Like, I've never felt like I needed to like be out front with a picket sign fighting for something. Like, it's just always been like a natural. If I'm like thinking about it or something, somehow you manage to like say it or bring it up or whatever in whatever meeting or check-in we're having and stuff like that. And I think that's like a beautiful thing because it trickles down into the whole structure of everything. And it's been a testament to why no one could probably ever poach me. And people have tried. They have low-key tried. And there's just not a conversation. Like,
now, based on what she's saying too, and then what both of us were talking about working for a team, did you have to be intentional about your mindset this way? Or like when you develop Seelbach, and as the company began to grow, again, with having either an entrepreneurial mindset or just knowing, hey, this could be a business that could succeed. I could either do it myself or find other folks who can help in these sort of ways. What has led you to lead the company, the team, in the way that you do? Was it intentional? Was it part of just who you are? Can you expand upon that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mix of both. I think, one, I was extremely lucky with parents who raised me in that way. It's like, hey, as cliche or corny as it sounds, is like, how would you want to be treated? Okay, you treat other people's that way. And, my dad was making us read like, is it Napoleon Hill but How to Win Friends and Influence People when I was in like middle school, and read all these different books. And or no, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, but somebody correct me in the comments of who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. But there's just things like that. I think there's probably a little bit of that is just my nature. There's a lot of leading. I've been very lucky, like I said, with parents who raised me like that. And then also you get into corporate settings and you're like, when you're working for somebody else, it's like, it doesn't have to be like this. Like people don't have to hate you. They don't have to, hate
fear
coming
you.
to work. They don't have to. And, you know, it's not always the right fit for everybody, but I think we've been able to get the right people who it's like, look, you're going to have a lot of room, and it's what you do with that room and freedom to not sink or swim, but you know, essentially it is that. And so it takes the right person, and we're not trying to grow a 1,000 employee business. You know, we need strong people in specific positions, and we can grow with them. And so that's always been my mindset of, it makes everybody's life a lot easier if you get the right people in, you give the freedom, and not to just throw out a bunch of quotes I can't remember. No, it's General MacArthur, which is like, you know, give somebody a task and let them surprise you with how it gets done. And that's always stuck with me, where it's like, hey, I know what I'm good at. And if I'm sitting there trying to every day figure out how to do everybody's job, specifically how I want it done for them,
you never get your own job done.
No, exactly. And so that's just always been my mindset going in. And there's pros and cons. I mean, I think it's definitely the way we obviously continue to go, and there's bumps along the way, but
it's the ultimate trial and error.
Yeah, everything a lot easier. And, you know, trying to be intentional about those things. And I think it is a fun world. It's a fun industry. If you get the right people in, you set them up for success. And ultimately, you know, my biggest thing is just like, it's especially for Seelbach, it's ultimately about the customer. Like, what do they want to see? It's not about how I want it. It's not about how I want to see people drinking. It's what do they want? What's their experience like? We mess up all the time, and I'll email customers like, hey, look, we screwed up, but there's one thing I can do is just make it right. So what does that take? And I think that trickles through everything we do. It's like, look, there's going to be mistakes. If you try to hide it, it's probably going to make it worse.
100%.
So let's just figure out how we get past this. And, you know, there's good days and bad days. You can tell me off camera if you're like, no, Blake, that's not how.
Here's the thing I find most interesting about you, though, and where you've ended up in the space, because Seelbach operates as an online retailer for spirits, which is so weird because I think one of the things I admire most about just seeing you operate is the way that you are with people, and or like when you're out and about, like you don't have a problem. And again, you've talked, you can go into the story again, but you've talked in other instances, obviously not on camera, about something that your dad instilled in you. So like you'll if we're at a bar and you overhear a couple talking about it being their anniversary, and then you slide over and you take care of the drinks, and you're like, hey, but you know, that kind of gesture with folks is something that's just a part of who you are. You can expand upon that a little bit. But the thing I find interesting is that I find that there's a big missing piece to bridge who Blake is in that capacity and how most people will interact with you as an online retailer, and a face that's behind it that they don't usually even see. Maybe they hear your words in the email, maybe they see a little picture, you know what I mean? But there's a big disconnect to connect like who you are and what you do and how to convey both messages at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting world and space because, you know, in my mind, you know, I was in Jacksonville doing accounting, building this online thing. I still don't, I mean, I had it, you know, we had a Instagram reel that a retailer in Florida posted, and I had guys who I grew up with were like, hey, had no idea you were in the bourbon world. It's cool. How long have you been doing it? It's like 13, 14 years now. And but you know, my nature is not typically to want to be the one in front of the camera. I don't love that. I do love connecting with people. I love talking with people. So
but you're such a natural on camera, but
I just don't wake up and think, you know what somebody wants to see today is me reviewing bourbon. And
I know a photo they want to see today.
Yeah, That's getting hidden. Never go to a distillery with Brian because he's got his camera. And next thing you know,
I'll take fantastic
you're in
photos
black and white, looking like you're posing. But no, I mean, I think I do. I love talking to people, love connecting with people. And then I kind of love my setup because most days I'm in the office by like 7:30. I'm in my own little nook in Jacksonville and I can just work. I do love working too. Like it's not a bad thing. We do a fun, but part of my personality just loves doing that. So then when I'm out, it's like I can be friendly, and I think it's a missed point where people don't like to be the first one to go and just be kind to somebody. And I feel like that was always instilled in me. Like you can be first. Like you can be the first to say hello. Like, and I've had it in my own life where it's like you never know who's having a bad day. Not to get like too like sappy or philosophical.
No, but it's so true.
Like just being kind to people can go a long way in ways that you will have you may never hear how that helps somebody, but being a jerk to people is never going to turn out well. Like there's definitely times where you want to be a jerk and it just makes you feel better for like that small instance, but I don't know.
But I mean, then that energy comes back.
Yeah. So fall back on like, ultimately, that's not the long tail, and I think that's where I've gotten lucky, where I can usually, for the most part, think about the long term in those things. And even with Seelbach, when things go wrong, especially early on, when we're just really trying to figure it out, it's like ultimately we just want to get these distilleries to people across the country. We want to highlight them. Certainly, stuff in the short term is going to get messed up, but the long term goal is still there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a mix. And, it still surprises me when I meet strangers, whether it's at a distillery or wherever, and they're like, oh, cool, Seelbach, how are you a part of that? And it's like, well,
it's mine.
I do some picks for it.
Yeah, I do some picks and jump on camera every now and then.
Emails.
But it is just crazy, like how much it has grown. And that part is fun, where there is like two different sections of my life where most of it is out of the camera side. But in general, the bourbon world is a great world. You get to meet great people. And I just think, certainly somebody could like, oh, I'm just going to go buy people drinks and be kind to them, and then they're going to come back and be customers. It's like, well, that's not a good mindset either. I think, going back to like, that's always how my dad was. I remember being with him at like baseball games and stuff, and he's talking to whoever it is, and I'm like, why is he talking to strangers? And now I find myself doing it all the time.
You do it all the time. But it's so not weird. Like, because some people are like that, and it comes across a little creepy.
Sometimes it's weird. Sometimes it's weird. But yes.
I'm so used to like to social Blake that like when he goes and works the room now, I don't even clock it anymore. Really,
it's the gold tux usually for me that I'm like, okay, it's a little too flashy, but okay.
It is. Yeah, I think as you get older, you do get more comfortable with things, because like, at the end of the day, if you're talking to somebody and like you're just being friendly and they don't want to talk, that's fine. Like I still go home to my wife and kids in a loving home. Like, it's nothing off of me. I'm just
nothing from you.
I'm not trying to like sell you bottles, but and I think you just never know what can come of those things. Like,
you never know who you're gonna meet.
You talk to so many different interesting people and perspectives, and yeah, I think that kind of answered the question, aside from, but it's the fun thing about what we do is because usually people are interested in that. Nobody that I ever met was like, oh, you're in accounting.
Yeah, tell
me
more
about
about
that.
that.
Tax questions, but
of course,
when you tell them it's like spirits, and thankfully bourbon has gotten so popular and a lot of people are into bourbon. And, I think it is interesting what we have built, and people are interested in that, and to be able to share that with people. And I don't know, it goes. And, I think people are going to continue to be interested in spirits, and
100%.
It's good lead in for conversations at times.
It's a great lead in for conversations. I think it's super ironic that you went from having like next to no friends in Jacksonville that were like even in that space or real drinkers really or anything like that, to now like you're the friend that your friends come to and get the bottles,
give
and
all the bottles
and get the barrels and all that.
There was a time where I told Danielle, I'm like, if I get hit by a car tomorrow, here's my two buddies who you need to call about what you can sell, what you cannot sell. Don't call my brother. Don't call these other friends. They're going to say that I wanted them to drink all of it. No, this is a Gold Wax Pappy 23. He wanted me to drink. No,
I did not.
That's going to pay for some kid's college.
I was just about to say, that's like weight tuition right there. Like, what are we talking about? Absolutely not. See, I'm terrible like that too. I've hoarded so many bottles. I feel like I have a hunch that this is gonna be worth something great one day.
Someday. And then I usually am like, I don't know, I'm celebrating. Let's open something good. That's but that's the fun of it. Like, secondary can be the secondary. Yeah. There's great bourbon out there.
Right, and there's going to continue to be great bourbon out there because I'm like also starting to hold stuff for when I finally do have a kid. But then I got to wait till they get to a certain age. But by that time, everything will be nice and mellowed out in that glass. It's going to be so wonderful.
Plenty of dusty Seelbach bottles.
It's going to be I'm actually going to be really excited for that day, telling all of my heyday stories.
Back in my day, we couldn't sell this. Well, and I mean, on like an industry note too, we've all seen it so many times we've had stuff we couldn't give away, and then all of a sudden, 6 months, a year, 2 years later, and it's like we're running lotteries, everybody's mad they didn't get a bottle, and it's like it is just funny to see how those cycles go through as well.
Yeah. I had absolutely no clue that I was going to learn this much when we started. I did not know what I signed up for at all. Clearly, the universe knew because I was interested in retail, which is how I wound up even responding to the ad at all. But I didn't picture any of this. So it's been very interesting just watching the industry shift and change and like the cycles of things and like particularly the craft space. Like because hindsight being 2020, I never even realized that, again, being in catering, like with just organically kind of being, I guess we all kind of have that personality where we find something that we're into, we like fully dial into it. Once I got into bartending, I started to fully dial into like craft cocktails, but that just led to like caring about the spirits in the cocktails. So now I want to know everything about the spirits or whatever. And so it kind of like filtered down to spirits that way. But I started doing tastings just for like private clients who just, had the budget to have you pull bottles for them and talk to them about it and all that. But even with that, I didn't know that I was learning about craft produce. Craft was not really a thing talked about for real at that point because that was probably 2015, 2016-ish. Craft was just not even a name. It was just considered local.
Yeah.
And so we were like pulling something like considered local and obscure from Colorado, like Breckenridge, I think was like relatively new then. Traverse City was new then. And so they were really considered craft brands still at that time. And then we were pulling like stuff local from Maryland and stuff from Virginia. Like Catoctin Creek was like just starting to creep on the scene, and like I didn't realize that I was already getting kind of prepped for that mind for like craft spirits and the stories behind the production and all of that. Like I was never all that into like the larger brands like that outside of just calling something behind a bar to taste it for, just learning and just being curious and all that. But that's just very kind of cool the way it's like you don't realize the steps that you're taking that lead you to a place until you like reflect on those steps. Like,
well, even when Seelbach first started, I can remember so many people obviously coming from the bourboner side. The email list was full of people who wanted Pappy, they wanted Weller, and
they were wanting people were like, Buffalo Trace. I know that much.
Yeah, why aren't you selling these big brands? Like, well,
everywhere sells it already.
Yeah, everybody's got it. They can get access to it. I think shipping could be a really good way to get bottles out there. I think building a platform that tells stories, that gets a group of people and customers that believe in craft brands. And, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that wasn't where the market was. Like you said, there was, maybe a couple hundred craft distilleries across the country, maybe a little more than that. And that number is, tenfold at this point, And so it just is funny. It's like a little bit of that good timing I talked about earlier, where thankfully we were able with Seelbach to be ahead of the curve because most people weren't online. Most people weren't telling stories focused on specifically craft and smaller brands. And that allowed us to build great relationships with distilleries. As they grow, then we grow. And it's just this great relationship.
It was a nice little ecosystem. I think. It's actually very cool.
Looking back, it makes sense. In 2017, 2018, it was like, why are you doing it that way?
The timing couldn't have been any more weird, probably. In 2017, I know Danielle was shaking her head like, we have 4.
Why are there so many sample bottles sitting here? And but no,
I know, right? In the beginning, I can't even imagine the amount of sample bottles that
just
you were
going
filtering
back
through.
through like old pictures and seeing, it is cool because like some of them in this week's email, it's 2015, 2016 sample bottles from McKinsey, Chattanooga, Barrel, all these other smaller brands, which a lot of them have gotten bigger. New Riff, we were super early in getting those barrel picks. So, it's good to see the rising tide of the craft spirits.
You think we hold the record for the most single barrels from New Riff? I wonder who
definitely did at one point. I would feel like I need to go back.
More barrels than us over the years? I just can't even imagine.
I think there was like 12 in 1 year at one point.
Yeah. Between Seelbach, Bourboner, the basketball group, the Chamber of Commerce, like just random groups of people.
I feel like since nobody's actually calculating that, I'm just going to call it the world record. So.
I'm going to call it the record. New Riff, please come correct us if we're wrong, but also feel free to confirm that it's true. Yeah, because I just feel like between all of Blake's random branches off of the Bourboner / Seelbach tree in terms of number of picks, we did a Chocolate City's best charity pick. We've done so many picks. I'm curious about that one. That is, sorry. No, go ahead.
This is really interesting. I didn't know exactly where this first episode was going to end up going, but this is just a little bit of a taste of what you might get here on the podcast. And there's going to be conversations more with us, whether it's individually, whether it's just me and Dee. We'll bring other folks on the show again. It's not specifically spirit focused, but from the folks that we have met in the spirits industry, I think that there's deep stories and things that have led us to where we all are that I think are some of the deeper parts that you don't necessarily get to unless you're sharing a pour with somebody. Exactly. And I think those are some of the best stories in the industry. And
agreed.
I think you'll hear that through other episodes. So I'm glad that we were all in town to be able to kind of pilot this.
Yeah.
And I look forward to whenever we're on the mic again.
Yes,
absolutely.
100%.
I feel like this is a great way for us to take these conversations, like you said, it's usually happening at a bar over a pour, and just document them. It's like, hey, even if they don't get watched, they do get watched. It's fun to have these stories out there. And I mean, we meet so many interesting people in this industry. I think this is a great format just to get their stories out there. And it's just another way.
I was just about to say it's another way to do what we already do, which is storytelling and just highlighting some of our favorite people, some of our favorite spirits, favorite brands.
And I hope a lot of people would agree too. I mean, we release a lot of bottles, so folks know there's the sneakerizing of spirits, whatever too. But at the end of the day, it's when you're out at a bar or at a restaurant and you're, again, it's the conversations that I think, and other folks will say it too, that really mean the most. And so I'm thankful for you guys to be able to sit down and us to dive into it, and we'll keep the conversations rolling.
100%. And we are thankful.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you, Blake, for being the first
and last time he's on this podcast.
No,
yeah, exactly.
We are going to pivot.
See you all at episode 100. Yeah.
No, we're definitely going to get you at least by episode 10, maybe 15. We'll see. But thank y'all for listening to Together in Spirits podcast. Please share, subscribe, do all the things, comment, give us your stories. And we're looking forward to taking y'all on this journey with us for sure. We didn't cheers when we started, so we have to cheers at the end.
That's right.
For sure. It is cheers, only right. Oh my God, that is bad luck. Both of these people have empty glasses.
It's the whiskey.
There's a literal drop in his. Okay, perfect. You have a drop. Okay, great. Well, then cheers to y'all.
Cheers, everybody.
I'd go under the mic and headlock it, but awesome.